Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, I'm Miriam Dow, wife, mama of four, real estate investor, and entrepreneur. In today's video, I want to give you some signs that your neighborhood is getting gentrified. So let's get right into it. Okay guys, so this is going to be a short video. I just want to go over gentrification that might be going on in your neighborhood, which is signs that you should invest if you can before you get misplaced. So let's start off with the definition of gentrification. Gentrification means the process whereby the character of a poor urban area is changed by wealthier people moving in, improving housing and attracting new businesses, typically displacing current inhabitants in the process. What does that mean in English? Basically, urban areas, urban neighborhoods where there's black and brown people being, displaced out of the neighborhood, and now wealthier people, Caucasian people, moving into those neighborhoods, and then that's when they start to make the houses, they double the rent. If your lease is up in 60 days, your landlord might come tell you, you know what, I know you're paying $2,000, but in 60 days your rent's gonna be $3,500. You can't afford it. It forces you to move out. It forces you to leave the neighborhood. You start to see cafes and a lot of different restaurants in the area. You start to see Starbucks, in the hood. If they open in a Starbucks in the middle of the hood, that means gentrification is happening. These big companies like Starbucks or these big condominiums, they do their research 5-10 years, their market analysis 5-10 years in advance. So they know which neighborhoods are going to get gentrified when, and they know what neighborhoods to get into before they even get into it. The area starts to lose its culture because the people who lived in these communities for 10, 20, 30 plus years, now they're forced out because now they can't even afford their own neighborhood. You start to see things like dog park. You start to see a lot of cafes, a lot of restaurants, lounges, especially cafes, because people like to sit down, drink coffee, get work done. And the only concern that I have about this is that it's the black and brown people, our people, who are being displaced, and we're going to other neighborhoods, right? Because at the end of the day, these urban areas, they're within the city. So we're within a short commute to the sports centers, the Madison Square Gardens, the city where everything is going on. Whereas, wealthier people or people of higher status, they might live in the suburbs. So there's a long commute that takes place when they're going into work, right? So they want to eliminate that. Now they want to come into the city. When I first moved to Jersey, it was a little shock when I went to college in Jersey, because there's no sidewalks in Jersey like there is in New York City. So you have to have a car. It's a different kind of life. You don't want to be too far. You get tired of that long commute. I mean, things have changed now because we're post-COVID, so a lot of people, realize that they can work from home. Don't be, one of those victims where you are forced to leave your neighborhood because now you can no longer afford it. So if you start to see these signs, the dog parks, the cafes, the different restaurants and lounges, you're starting to see a lot of restoration going on with old buildings that they're knocking down, turning into high-rise condominiums. You're starting to see a lot of the businesses that was in the neighborhood, those stores, those tenants being forced out, and those getting knocked down, turning into high-rise condominiums. There was like a gas station on 110th Street and 8th Avenue, I think. It was there forever. And they knocked it down. They forced those people out of there, knocked it down, and turned it into a high-rise condominium, like a luxury condominium. And I think Columbia University students, they turned some of those units into like dorm rooms or something like that. I'm not sure, I could be wrong, but I know Columbia University dorm rooms are in that area, 110th Street on the west side. These were things that happened years ago. So if you're in a neighborhood that's urban and you're starting to see a little bit of these signs, try to invest in that neighborhood. Try to keep that culture there. Try to buy your home. Try to, purchase a home in that neighborhood, because those are signs of gentrification. Or the higher status people, wealthier people, they want to basically capitalize on the lower property values. So they come in, they get these houses at a lower lower property values, they can afford it. You might not be able to afford the $3,500 rent, but they can afford the $3,500 rent. Or they'll come in and they'll buy it. The investors come in and they buy it at a low property value, and then they start knocking down these houses. You start to see, you know, one block, building after building after building, getting knocked down, restored, knocked down, restored. Or they'll just come in, they turn a 1-bedroom into like a 2-bedroom, and then that rent goes from like $1,500 to like $3,500. Like, the apartments in New York City has never been smaller. They're getting smaller and smaller and smaller. My husband's apartment, he had a how many bedrooms was that? I think it was a 2-bedroom apartment, or 2-bedroom apartment. And once he moved out, they chopped that apartment up in so many. They turned a 2-bedroom apartment into a 3-bedroom apartment. The living room wasn't really not that big. The kitchen was tiny. It's only 1 bathroom, but they chopped it up, turned it into a 3-bedroom apartment. So this is what's going on in your very neighborhood. I'm speaking of Harlem because that's where I'm from. But you know, if we knew what was going on 10, 20 years ago, I mean, I was too young to invest, but this is something, these are conversations I would have with my parents. Hey, maybe we should buy this brownstone. Because I remember when they were literally giving out brownstones, they had different kind of programs going on because no one wanted to live in Harlem. They were literally giving these properties out for like, or something crazy where, you know, like you sign up for something and it was just crazy cheap. I remember my uncle talks about it with me all the time, but this was like 20 years ago. And then was it Hurricane Sandy that happened? I remember Hurricane Sandy. I was working at Mercedes-Benz at the time, and I remember because everyone who lived downtown, you know, they didn't have any power, whereas I lived uptown in Harlem. It's like nothing ever happened. Okay, we got some rain, but no crazy trees fell. We didn't lose no power. We didn't lose no light, whereas everyone downtown, you know, they didn't have power. They were coming into Mercedes. I worked at Mercedes on the east side. They were coming in to charge your phones and stuff like that. So now they're starting to see, you know, it's better to, you know, be uptown. So now you're starting to see all types of people, you know, getting comfortable. We've seen Caucasian people going out on runs in the evening. They, you know, when you didn't really see that many Caucasian people, now the community is diverse. Try to monopolize on that. Invest in your neighborhood, invest in your property. Those are some signs of gentrification. You know, it's basically displacing our people, our black and brown people, to the point where they could no longer afford our neighborhoods. And the few units that have, you know, rent control and their rent doesn't go up, sooner or later they move out because they don't even recognize their community anymore. They can't even afford to shop in their community. There's all these you know, expensive boutiques and stores and stuff like that, restaurants that are really expensive, where they can't even afford their community. They don't even know the people in the community. They don't know the business owners anymore. So then they are inclined to move out and go somewhere where it's a little bit more familiar. So those are some signs of gentrification. And if you happen to be in a neighborhood that this hasn't happened yet, look out for these signs. Try to invest in these neighborhoods while you still can, because sooner or later you probably won't be able to afford it. So that's it for today's video. I hope you guys liked it. Nice, short, and sweet. Something that was just on my mind that I just wanted to bring up with you guys. Tell me what you guys think. Are you in a neighborhood that's already been gentrified, or is it in the process of being gentrified? Tell me what you guys think. Put it in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you in the next video.